Have you ever looked at your loved one and thought, why are they doing this? Maybe they're asking the same question over and over. Maybe they're suddenly refusing to take a bath. Maybe they're accusing you of something that they misplaced. Or maybe you're trying to explain something that seems perfectly simple to you and they just aren't understanding. Here's something I want every dementia caregiver to know. Dementia is so much more than memory loss. The brain is physically changing, and once you understand what's happening inside the brain, many of those confusing behaviors, well, they start to make a lot of sense. Today I want to show you what dementia really does to the brain, and more importantly, what that means for you as a caregiver. Hi, I'm Larea McQueen. I'm a registered nurse, faith community nurse, and certified in dementia care. And I've spent over 30 years caring for people with Alzheimer's and other dementias. I've cared for people with dementia in hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and their own homes, and even hospice. And now both of my parents are living with dementia, so I understand this journey from the family side too. One of the most important things that I've learned over the years is this. When we understand what the dementia brain can no longer do, we can change how we respond. And that can make caregiving just a little easier for everyone. Dementia isn't just forgetting. When most people hear the word dementia, they think about memory loss. And yes, memory loss is a big part of Alzheimer's disease and many other dementias. But dementia can also affect judgment, reasoning, language, vision and perception, emotions, problem solving, decision making, and even the ability to understand what's happening around them. And that's why I often tell caregivers, dementia is so much more than forgetting. Your loved one isn't simply forgetting information. Their brain may no longer be able to process information the same way it once did. And that's a very important difference. Our brains contain billions of nerve cells called neurons. These cells communicate with each other and allow us to think, remember, speak, move, make decisions, and understand the world around us. With Alzheimer's disease and other dementias, those brain cells become damaged. The connections between the cells are lost, and eventually brain cells die. As the disease progresses, more areas of the brain can be affected, and different areas of the brain have different jobs. This helps explain why dementia can cause so many different symptoms. For example, the frontal part of the brain helps us with things like judgment, planning, problem solving, and controlling our behavior. And if that part of the brain isn't working properly, your loved one may make decisions that just don't make any sense to you. They may say something inappropriate, they may do something unsafe, or they may have trouble starting a task that they've done hundreds of times before. That isn't necessarily them being difficult. Their brain has changed. And here's something that many caregivers don't realize. A person with dementia can have perfectly good eyesight and still have trouble understanding what they're seeing. Their eyes may see the object, but their brain has to make sense of that information. For example, a dark rug on the floor might look like a hole. A reflection in a mirror might look like there's another person in the room. And even a busy pattern on a carpet, that might look like something they need to pick up. And dark doorways, well, they can look frightening. Imagine what that would feel like. What if you believed there was a large hole in front of you and someone kept saying, "Come on, just walk across it"? Would you want to? Probably not. You might refuse. You might become frightened. Well, and you might even become angry if they kept pushing you. And that's where understanding the dementia brain can completely change how we see a behavior. This is one of the most important things I teach dementia caregivers. Behaviors usually have a reason. We may not immediately understand that reason, but there's usually something behind that behavior. Maybe they're frightened. Maybe they're confused. Maybe they're in pain. Maybe they're tired. Well, maybe there's too much noise. Maybe they don't understand what you're asking them to do. Or maybe their brain is seeing or interpreting the situation differently than yours. So instead of asking, how do I make them stop doing this? Try asking, what might they be trying to tell me? That one question can change the entire situation. Another common struggle I hear from caregivers is, I've explained it over and over, but they still don't understand. That's because dementia can damage the brain's ability to reason. You may have a perfectly logical explanation, but your loved one's brain may no longer be able to follow that reasoning. That's why arguing usually doesn't help. and in fact, it actually makes things worse. Imagine being absolutely certain about something and having another person repeatedly tell you that you're wrong. Well, you'd probably become frustrated too. Instead of trying to prove that your loved one is wrong, try to figure out what they're feeling. Are they scared? Worried? Looking for someone? Trying to go somewhere? Sometimes responding to the feeling works much better than correcting the facts. Well, here's another thing that surprises many caregivers. Tasks that seem simple to us actually require many different steps from the brain. Think about brushing your teeth. You have to remember that it's time to brush your teeth. You have to find the toothbrush. You have to find that toothpaste. And then you got to put that toothpaste on that toothbrush. You have to know what to do with it. Brush, rinse, know when you're finished. We do all of that without even thinking about it. But a person with dementia may lose the ability to organize those steps. So when your loved one's standing in the bathroom holding the toothbrush and they don't know what to do next, they're not being lazy. Their brain may no longer be able to put those steps together. Instead of saying, "You know how to brush your teeth," try giving them one small step at a time. Here's your toothbrush, then wait. Let's put some toothpaste on it, and then wait again. Breaking a task into smaller steps gives that brain less information to process at once. Dementia can also change communication. Your loved one may struggle to find the right word. They may lose track of a conversation, and they may have trouble understanding long sentences. They may need much more time to process what you've said. That's why slowing down can help. Use short sentences, ask one question at a time, give them time to answer, and please, try not to fill every quiet moment with more words. Sometimes their brain simply needs a few extra seconds to catch up. There is one change I would love every dementia caregiver to make. When something doesn't make sense, instead of immediately thinking, "Why are they doing this?" try asking, "What is their brain having trouble doing right now?" That question, well, that changes our perspective. Maybe they're not being stubborn. Maybe they don't understand. Maybe they're not refusing. Maybe they're frightened. Maybe they're not ignoring you. Maybe their brain hasn't processed what you said yet. And maybe they're not trying to give you a hard time. They're having a hard time. You can't repair the damage that dementia is causing in your loved one's brain, but you can change the environment around them. You can change how you communicate. You can slow things down. You can simplify tasks. You can reduce distractions. You can stop arguing over things that don't really matter. And you can learn to look for the reason behind a behavior. That's where your power as a caregiver really is. You can't change the disease, but you can change your approach. And sometimes a small change in your approach can make a very, very big difference. Understanding the dementia brain was one of the biggest things that changed the way I cared for people with dementia. That's also why I created my Understanding Dementia course. I wanted caregivers to have somewhere they could learn what dementia is, how the brain changes, how dementia progresses, why behaviors happen, and what they can actually do to make everyday care a little easier. If you'd like to learn more, I'll put the link to the Understanding Dementia course in the description below. I'll also link to my article, What Dementia Really Does to the Brain, where you can read more about what we've talked about today. And if you're caring for someone with Alzheimer's or another dementia, please remember, you don't have to learn everything at once. Take it one day and one challenge at a time. And until next time, please, don't forget to take care of yourself too.